You know that passport you have? It's so much more than just a little booklet for getting through airport security. It's actually an incredibly powerful tool. It dictates where you can go, where you can live, and, believe it or not, even your potential for a long and healthy life. Now, for most of us, this is all decided by the pure, random chance of where we happen to be born. But what if it wasn't? What if your nationality actually had a price tag?
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the fundamental unfairness of the birthright lottery. Then, we'll get into how a passport's power is actually measured. From there, we'll see how citizenship has kind of broken free from national borders to create a global marketplace. And finally, we'll unpack the huge debate this has kicked off about what it even means to belong to a nation.
All right, so the heart of this whole thing, it really starts with a simple yet pretty profound idea. The nationality you were born with is very often the single biggest factor in determining your opportunities in life. It acts like this invisible, totally arbitrary ceiling on your potential.
And the scholar Ayelet Shaker just nailed it with this term, the birthright lottery. It's such a powerful way of saying that this really critical piece of our identity isn't based on our skills, our dreams, or our character. Nope, it's just based on a random roll of the dice at birth.
So this whole lottery idea, it immediately forces us to ask a pretty tough question. In a world that's more connected than ever, is it really fair that the passport we get at birth can decide so much of our lives? Well, the data suggests the answer is a pretty resounding no.
And this just lays out the brutal reality of that inequality. I mean, we're not just talking about being able to take a vacation in Paris without a visa. The birthright lottery has literal life or death consequences. It creates a staggering gap in the most fundamental human right of all, the right to just survive.
So, if this value gap is so huge, how do we even begin to measure it? Well, for the first time, we actually have a tool that was designed not just to rank countries, but to rank the objective, practical value of their nationalities. It's called the Quality of Nationality Index, or QNI for short. And what it does is it moves beyond just feelings of patriotism or a country's reputation. It uses a clear, transparent set of criteria to give every nationality a score, measuring what that passport actually allows you to do in the real world.
So what makes a nationality high quality? Well, the QNI looks at really concrete benefits. How many countries can you visit without needing a visa? That's travel freedom. But even more important is this. How many countries can you legally move to, live in, and work in? That's settlement freedom. And then it weights those freedoms by the quality of those other places, their economic strength, their level of human development, and how peaceful and stable they are.
And this is where the data starts to dismantle one of the biggest myths about passport power. You'd think a global economic giant like China would offer a top-tier nationality, right? But the QNI shows that's just not the case. A tiny little microstate like Liechtenstein, because of its incredible settlement freedoms inside Europe, offers a nationality that has way more practical value.
And when you actually look at the scores, the difference is just massive. A French nationality, scoring an 83.5%, basically gives its holder access to a world of opportunity. A Canadian nationality is still really high quality, but a Pakistani nationality, down at 15.5%, that represents a life lived with severely limited mobility and options. This right here is the value gap in action.
And that leads us to another really crucial shift. The value of a top-tier passport today isn't just about the rights you have in your own country. It's about the massive network of rights and freedoms it unlocks across dozens of other nations.
The very idea of citizenship has been unchained from territory. For citizens of more than half the world's nations, the basic rights of belonging, like the right to live and work, are no longer just confined to the borders of the state that gave them their passport.
This all happens through these powerful regional agreements that create something called inter-citizenships. The most famous one, of course, is the European Union, where one passport gives you settlement rights in 27 different countries. But this is a global thing, from ECOWAS in West Africa to Mercosur in South America. A single legal status can now open doors across entire continents.
So you can see where this is all going, right? When you have this huge gap in value between nationalities and the high-value ones unlock access to entire regions of the world, a market was pretty much inevitable. So welcome to the age of jus pecuniae, the right of money.
This market has been formalized through what are known as citizenship by investment, or CBI programs. You've probably heard them called golden passports. And these programs are very direct. They offer a legal path to full citizenship in exchange for a very specific investment or donation to that country's economy.
The process itself is surprisingly straightforward. It's turned what was once this kind of sacred legal journey into a structured transactional service. An applicant makes a qualifying investment, they go through some pretty rigorous background checks to screen for any security risks, and if they pass, they're granted full citizenship.
And how much does a new nationality cost? Well, the entry point in several Caribbean nations, whose passports offer excellent visa-free travel to Europe, can be around $150,000. So this isn't some abstract idea, it has a very real price.
Now, as you can imagine, the very existence of this multi-billion-dollar industry forces us all to confront a really fundamental debate about what citizenship even means. Is it a sacred bond that connects a community, or is it just another asset that you can acquire?
The arguments really fall into two main camps. On one side, you have critics who argue that putting citizenship up for sale just degrades the sacred bond that's built on shared history, identity, and democratic participation. But on the other side, proponents see it as a pretty pragmatic solution, a tool for global mobility, a valuable insurance policy against instability, and maybe most importantly, a way for people to overcome the random injustice of that birthright lottery.
But then, some scholars just flip the entire debate on its head. They argue that for the billions of people who are essentially trapped by low-value nationalities, the victims of citizenship, these programs aren't the problem. The problem is the system of citizenship itself, which cages people in places with no opportunity. And from that perspective, selling a path to freedom isn't immoral. The immoral act is building the cage in the first place. And all of this leads us to our final and maybe most critical question. As nationality becomes a commodity, something that can be bought and sold, what does this mean for the future of who we are and where we belong?
The market for passports forces us to confront this question head-on. Is the real value of citizenship found in a shared history and culture, or is it found in the practical freedoms and opportunities it provides? The answer might just redefine what it means to be a citizen in the 21st century.